So then guys, you might be in the market for an A-Class and stumbled across a model called the Mercedes-Benz GLA. Now the A-Class and GLA are pretty similar, but there are a few key differences. So we're going to be covering an in-depth comparison guide of these two, and also covering why it's called GLA in the first place. But first, an intro. With the A-Class as one of Mercedes' best-selling models, what is a GLA? Well, in its most simplified form, a GLA is a higher or raised A-Class, also known as an SUV, which brings me very neatly onto why it's called a GLA in the first place. So, fun fact of the day then guys, did you know what the GL part of the GLA stands for? Well, in German it directly translates to Geländewagen, and translated to English, that basically means off-road or SUV. So you can kind of see this as a raised or SUV A-Class. So you can actually apply that principle to the rest of the Mercedes-Benz range. Take a GLB for example. This is an SUV B-Class. GLC, SUV C-Class. So it's quite cool how you can translate that. Now there isn't an SUV of every shape of Mercedes, but it does cover the vast majority of them. So then guys, when it comes to the exterior and design of these cars, they are very, very similar, and just you wait till you see the dimensions in a minute, because they're quite surprising. But when it comes to their grills, they do have slightly different grills. Basically the A-Class has the very classic diamond grille, as you can see here. And then the GLA, again very similar, but on the line across the middle it has like these inserts. However, when it comes to the lights, the A-Class has like a reverse tick on the lights. Then of course the GLA has this kind of singular line at the top and then a kind of insert just underneath, just probably to aid the GLA appearance. Now, when it comes to the dimensions, this is where it gets interesting. If you take a paperclip just like this here, and I don't mean lengthways, I mean literally widthways, it is just literally that much larger when it comes to the GLA. So I'll put all the dimensions up on screen here so you can see, and they're virtually the same. So guys, don't worry about if you have a garage or something like that. The main difference is that it's slightly taller, just in its height, but otherwise dimensions are so similar, you might not even notice. Now, when it comes to the boot, basically on the A-Class, boot capacities range anything from 310 litres up to 355 litres. Just depends what kind of engine variant you go for, because you can actually get both cars, which I'll cover in a minute, you can actually get them both in a plug-in hybrid. So it does just eat into the boot capacity ever so slightly, so that's what the 310 is. But others, like petrol and diesel, it just varies depending on the engine you go for. Now, of course, with both cars, you can fold the seats down 40-20-40 as well. And there's a bit of space under the floor here as well, as long as you haven't gone for the plug-in hybrid. So that's the A-Class. Let's have a look at the GLA. Now, when it comes to the GLA, it's a very similar story. So boot capacity ranges from 445 litres up to 495 litres. Just depends, again, if you go for a petrol, diesel or a plug-in hybrid. So yes, plug-in hybrid on both. Now, I don't have the plug-in hybrids here, just because sadly they weren't available at the time of filming. But again, it just eats into your boot capacity ever so slightly, and then of course you can't get into the bit underneath because that's where the battery is. But the GLA does have a trick up its sleeve, which is really good, because it has the bigger boot, mainly because of its vertical space. Not only do most GLAs, the newer ones, have this kind of reversible mat, which is waterproof on one side, you've also got this floor here, which you can actually lower down just like that. So it means you've got a little bit more space. Now, of course, you can't do that on the plug-in hybrid, but if you go for the diesel and petrol, that is something to consider, because then you've got a slightly bigger boot. Now, if you want it completely flat, basically you just bring him up, pop him on the top, and then it'll lock back in place just like that. So then guys, the rear seats first. Now I'm sat in the A-Class first, and as is customary with all my videos, so I'll do this for both cars, I always set this seat up for my driving position. And just for some context, I'm 6'2", obviously sat behind myself, my driving position, and I naturally have long legs anyway. But in terms of things in the rear, we've got the vents here for the rear passengers. There's a USB-C port down there, little cargo net storage there, storage in the doors as well, and depending on specification you can actually get an armrest here as well. I think in the UK most of the time it's on a thing called the premium package, but of course you can fold it down if you need to put anything long all the way through with the boot. And then of course finally we've got the red stitching on the seats, which we'll show you on the front seats in a moment. So yeah, very, very nice. In terms of room, yeah, absolutely, I could do a fairly long journey here. In terms of headroom, I can get about 4 fingers above my head, so yeah, loads of room here. But you wait till you see what happens in the GLA. And then jumping into the GLA, you can instantly see there's loads more room in here. So mainly because of the car's height, literally above my head, you can get my whole hand above my head. So yeah, loads of room up there. And of course, because the car is taller as well, there's more room going down here. So my natural long legs, I've got more room here. So, and here as well, of course, that's still set up for my driving position, so I can get my whole hand here. So out of the two, I'd much rather do a longer journey in this one, although I could do it in the A-Class, but it just got more room here. Again, the same things, you've got the storage here in the doors, little nets there for storage there, USB-C ports there, and of course vents there as well, and same thing with the armrest there. So with all of that out of the way, let's have a look at the front. And up front, this is where Mercedes-Benz design looks amazing. Now in 2018, when the A-Class came out, they launched with this kind of widescreen display just like this, and it looks incredible. Of course then, a year or so later, it then came into the GLA, which I'm sat in now. Now for the purposes of this video, as the interiors at the front are exactly the same, I'm just going to film this bit in the GLA. A-Class, like I said, is exactly the same, it's just not as tall. But all the buttons here are exactly the same. So going through the multimedia screen just here, there is a touchpad in the middle, and you can swipe this left and right and it will control the elements on the screen just like this. So very, very easy to use. It is also touchscreen as well, so you can use it a bit like a smartphone. So starting on phone, basically you can actually connect 2 phones to this multimedia system at the same time. So this is really good if you have a driver and passenger, or maybe you have a personal and work phone or something. You can have 2 connected, and then a button on the steering wheel to literally answer either phone. So very, very easy. When it comes to the sat-nav, now I won't run through the sat-nav completely in this video, as I have dedicated videos on my channel for each sat-nav system that you can get in the Mercedes-Benz pretty much since 2014. So this one is MBUX, very, very easy to use. You've got those 3 buttons at the bottom there, where to, finish and mute, so super easy to use. And then for radio, of course, you've got all these different stations here, automatically tunes to them, and you can literally just swipe across like this, and the one there is the one that's playing. Heart Christmas. It's definitely not Christmas yet. We need fireworks or bonfire night first before we can call it Christmas. We'll come off that for now. But onto media. Media's for Bluetooth and USB. So yes, you can connect your phone up and charge it in the car as well. So in the front here, there'll be a USB-C port. What most people don't know is also a 12-volt socket hidden there as well. And then usually in the middle down here, there's a couple of USB-C ports. Sometimes one, depends on the specification. And then one of my favourites is the ambient lighting. Now this isn't on all models of A-Class and GLA, but if you do have it, it is pretty cool. It turns your interior of your car into like literally a spaceship. And yes, there are many different colours you can choose. I know a lot of people do choose the blue. You can change it to red, green, yellow, anything you can possibly think of. And for those with a keen eye, yes, you can do multicolour as well. So yeah, looks so smart. And then guys, on to engines. So we'll start on the A-Class first. You can get an A180D and an A200D. Those basically come in at 116 horsepower and then the 150 horsepower for those two. When it comes to the GLA, they basically have slightly more powerful engines. So they start at a GLA 200D, Then there's also a GLA 220D as well, but this also does have 4MATIC, which is Mercedes-Benz's four-wheel drive, although on the GLA a variable four-wheel drive system. So these basically come in at 150 horsepower and then of course 190 horsepower as well. So these are very, very quick, very torquey as well with that diesel engine. So in case you need a bit more power, you can go for those. Now on the petrol front, you've got an A180 and an A200. That is 136 horsepower and 163 horsepower. I guess because of its size with the GLA, there's only one petrol engine, which is the GLA 200. So that's just 163 horsepower. You can get a plug-in hybrid on both as well, and you can also get Mercedes AMG engines as well. So this is a GLA 35 or an A35 and even an A45S and a GLA 45S as well. So if you want some extra fun and a bit more performance, go for one of those. And there we go then guys, that concludes the comparison video on the A-Class and the GLA. Now only a couple of weeks ago I did also film a video on the A-Class hatchback and the A-Class saloon. So if you want to see that one, check this video out right here, as that one will take you straight to that comparison video. I'd like to give out a huge shout out to these guys, Sandown Mercedes-Benz, as they help provide access to all these awesome cars you see in the videos. It'd be very tricky to do it without them. Guys, thank you so much. See you soon.